Hi everyone, it is me, Leo Brown, and we are back once again for Let's Talk About It Tuesday. First of all, I'm so sorry for my absence last week. I just was not, I'll just be honest, I wasn't compelled to really do a video. There was a lot going on, and of course, with what's going on in the world, yeah. And forgive my disheveled look. This is my quarantine look. So I hope you guys are doing well. And I really don't want to call it quarantine because it really isn't a quarantine because you can leave your house. It's just that you shouldn't. But I hope you guys are doing well despite the circumstances. I hope you guys are learning, living, growing, figuring out yourself, reflecting, doing all the things that we should do during this time. For those of you who are, new to my channel, I am Leo Brown. I'm a psychic. I'm a life coach. I'm a medium, and I'm also a motivational speaker and author. You can check me out via social media, and if you'd like, you can go and support my work as an author by downloading my book on Kindle. So the links are all in the description bar. Anywho, what I wanted to come on and talk to you guys about today, because it is Let's Talk About It Tuesday, and I wanted to talk about dysfunctional families. One of the reasons why I actually wanted to bring this up is because, um, when I think of family, when I think of, for me, when I think of family, when I think of, the background that I come from, it is riddled with dysfunction. It just is. And the one thing I've learned is that as a culture, and especially I think in cultures of color, whether you are Black, African, Latino, Asian, it doesn't matter, either East or South Asian, you do kind of run into it. And oftentimes we don't know that our backgrounds are dysfunctional until we get out of the family, like until we leave home or we go to college or we get married and we see, or I wouldn't say necessarily married, we get into a relationship where we see like the things that we grew up with or the patterns that we have in place are not only unhealthy but they're toxic. So one of the reasons why, like I said, I wanted to bring this up was because I noticed in my culture, and I don't know if you guys can relate to this, maybe you can, but one of the things I've come to realize and I've seen as dysfunction is the whole thing of, okay, well, this is your family, and no matter what, you have to take care of them. I'm from the American Deep South. I'm a native Alabamian. I was born in Alabama, and growing up, my mother always taught us to stick. The only people you have left is family, and I don't really agree with that. I'm just gonna be honest. My take is that it doesn't matter if we're family or not. If you're bad for me, you're bad for me. Period. And vice versa. If I'm not good for you, then I'm not good for you. It doesn't matter if we're blood related or not. And that's even and that also can be family of choice too, because the one thing I've even learned from that is that dysfunction can come even with people that you choose as your family, because often as gay people, as we grow and we get into the world, um, and we learn about ourselves, we end up choosing our family of choice. And that could be a whole nother family, that could be a group of friends that are like family, but then you even realize in that there's dysfunction in that. And I guess what I mean by that is like, think if you can, think back to your own family dynamic. Like I can honestly say for mine, my family dynamic was even if um even if I didn't like you, you know what I mean? Even if I didn't like you, I still had to love you because you were family. Despite the fact that you were not healthy for me, despite the fact that whenever you came around, you always brought with you drama and conflict and bickering, and we were always fighting. There was never any real resolution. But because we're family, I have to deal with you. And the one thing I've realized and I've come to learn is I don't have to do that. That's my decision. And it's dysfunctional to even put that on a person. Now let's even look at families of choice. So in a family of choice, you have, well, yeah, your family up until the family of choice has a crisis. and then you're not included. You're sometimes excluded. That can be dysfunctional in itself, because then it's like, well, your family when everything is fine, or you know what, we're family, you know, when you're the person's paying for something, or the person is being generous to their home, they're you know what I mean, they're cleaning up your messes pretty much, or you can pull them into your drama, then your family, then you know what I mean, then you care. But the minute that that things are not going the way that they see fit, then you don't matter. So that is dysfunctional in itself, because that's not healthy. A real family, in my opinion, whether it be a choice or origin, they love you unconditionally. They know that you're flawed. They know that you have dreams and goals that don't include them. And they also know that it is not fair to them or to you to put their standard of living or their beliefs or whatever it is that they have, to project it onto you. Because growing up, in my home, a lot of the issues that I ended up having, and it's taken me a long, and I'm still unpacking a lot of it. I'm just going to be very honest here. Um, I had to learn that, growing up, especially with a single parent, my mother projected a lot of her issues onto me, and to my siblings too. Like, she really did. She was sibling, because I shouldn't say I sound like I have more than one. But my siblings, she projected a lot of her issues onto us. And so by the time we came into adulthood, we felt like, well, that's my mom. Like, take it for instance, to give you a better example of what I'm trying to say. Look at Candy Burris and her mother. That's a good example. I don't know what oh my goodness. I think it was either Watch What Happens Live or one of them. It was one, I think it was Watch What Happens Live. And a caller called in and spoke to Candy about her mother. And I remember in the conversation, as Candy was answering the question, she became very emotional. She became very almost combative. And she kept saying over and over again, "That's my mother, that's my mama, that's my mama." And she was reduced to tears. She started crying. And I'm like, but it doesn't matter if that's your mother or not. Just because, the one thing I've come to learn too is this: just because a person lays down and gives birth to you doesn't make them a parent. There's a difference between an animal can be a mother, but it takes a certain type of person to be a parent. There's a difference, okay? And the one thing I've come to learn is, I didn't ask you to have me. You know what I mean? I didn't ask to be born. So you cannot put, well, I'm your mom. So if you're not healthy for me, it doesn't matter if you're my mother. Or even if you're my father. Let's go into that. Let's go into, toxicity with the men in the family. Because even growing up with, I grew up with a lot of cousins. I grew up with a lot of I grew up around primarily a lot of women. And, I'm just telling a little bit of my story. And the one thing that I kept hearing over and over was how you know, men weren't shit. Men were not worth it. Men were this. Men would leave. And what I noticed that with a lot of, and I didn't know it then because I was so young, but what I realized is that a lot of the women in my family would emasculate the men. But then, but I'm not gonna put it all on the women, because the men would come in with their own agenda. The men would come in with their own drama. The men would come in with all this unresolved anger and aggression and baggage, and they would expect the woman to fix them. And it's like, that's not gonna happen. And so for me growing up, I was taught that if you love somebody, there's got to be drama attached to it. It has to be unhealthy. It can't be fluid. It can't ebb and flow. It can't be healthy. It can't be a relationship, and not just intimate. I'm not talking about just intimate here. I'm talking about even in the sense of, child to parent, that you can't go to said parent and talk to them about anything and not feel like you're going to be, what am I trying to say? You can't go to your parent without judgment, without a fear of judgment. Because growing up, my parent, she was there. Like I'll be honest, my mother was very much present, but at the same time, my mother was present when it came to material things. She just was. She was a very present person in that. But when it came to emotionally letting her guard down, letting you in, letting you see the mask that she often wore, she wouldn't show it. And so when it came to really opening up and telling her my truth, whether it made sense or not to her, there was a lack of understanding. Now, fast forward to now, we're in a better space. But it's taken a long time. And don't get me wrong, we still have our moments. I mean, because, but I've realized that that's not healthy. If you feel you can't come to a person you claim to love, and this is, like I said, with family of origin or of choice, if you feel you can't come to them and tell them your truth without the fear of judgment or a negative reaction, then that's not healthy for them or for you. Because how are you going to learn when you go out into the world? How are you going to learn how to communicate? How are you going to learn how to show your emotions? You're not. You know what I mean? You wear a mask, or you write people off, or you become the person that you don't want to be. You become a bully. You become very controlling. You become aggravated easily. And I'm saying this because I can speak on these things because I was, and like I said, I'm a work in progress like everybody else. I can still be like that sometimes. So, it's amazing how when you tend to really look at things from a different perspective, and also when you tend to have a moment to go away. You know what I mean? To go away from what you realize how unhealthy it was. But that's the thing about dysfunction. If that's all you don't think it's unhealthy because it's familiar. It's familiar to always yell at people. It's familiar to always have an argument. It's familiar to be manipulative. It's familiar to play the victim role. It's familiar to not hold yourself accountable. It's familiar to not be responsible for your actions, but also for them to be unresponsible. You know what I mean? For them to not hold themselves accountable too. So, it's familiar to get the silent treatment, and not really communicate and be passive aggressive, things like that. So it's interesting how, it really pours into our worlds. I mean, case in point, look at the Braxtons. And I'm just gonna say this: Black people, my Black folks, I love us. I love us to life. I really do. I love us for real. I love us to life. I love us down. But I really need us to stop normalizing dysfunction. Stop it. Stop making it funny. Stop thinking it's cute. Stop thinking and especially normalizing abuse. Because if you look at the Jacksons, the Braxtons, and the Clark sisters, as you guys know, there's a Clark sisters movie coming out, I think this weekend on Lifetime. And they've been showing previews, and they show, the mother, what's her name? Maddie Moss Clark. And they show her. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, the movie looks good, but I'm like, the mother's a bitch. She talks down to her kids. She makes them feel less. Because there's one preview clip from the movie where I think, is it Twinkie? Because I am a Clark Sisters fan. I just don't remember the girl, or the woman, I should say. She ends up selling her catalog, her songs, and she buys a car in the movie. And the mother's just like talking at her and, oh, you ain't nothing but a child, and da-da-da. And I'm like, why would you do that? You don't talk to that's a grown woman. And the woman's just broke down. And I'm like, why would you? Like, I understood her anger, but I'm like, come on now, y'all. Like, there's a way to do anything. And then if you look at the Jacksons, case in point, I honestly do believe, even though I know that she later recanted a lot of what she said, I do believe that the Jackson kids were victims of abuse. I do. And that's what I'm saying. We have to stop normalizing that. You have to stop. But you remember the time mama would beat you with a, with a switch or extension cord, and this is from somebody who used to do it. My sister and I, our mother would, okay, I'll put it to you like this. But I want to tell, once again, this whole thing, okay, I'm just going to tell it. So my mother would so my mother was not the kind of person where she would just, my mother was very much on beat your ass. That was her. So growing up, my mother would, extension cord, switch, anything she could get a hand on, she would hit us with, she would discipline us with. And we, instead of us admitting how hurtful it was, this is what my sister and I did. We wrote a rap song about this extension cord to the tune of "You Can't Touch This." Okay? And I'm like, and we actually, in the song, if I remember correctly, we actually thanked her for beating us. And I'm like, that's not, and let me also say, there's a fine line between spanking someone and being abusive. There's a fine line, but that's not the only method. In my opinion, using extension cords, and this is just me, you don't have to agree with me, that's fine, we can agree to disagree, we're all adults. But using extension cords, using switches, using all these things, there's more than one way to skin a cat, in my opinion. There's more than one way to discipline a child that will become an adult. Because I can tell you from somebody who knows, when you spank a child, what they do, they internalize that, especially if you're beating them. Like, if you really are just going ham, they internalize that, and it comes out in different ways. It comes out in a lot of ways. It really does. It comes out in so many ways. You end up hiding things. You end up being secretive. You end up being very aggressive, very angry. You want to fight all the time. Things like that. Or the opposite. You end up kind of going inside. You end up being depressed. You end up you're quick to cry, quick to emotion, things like that. And I'm saying it because I've seen both sides of the spectrum. Me with my depression, and then my sister with her anger. So it's like, yeah. And like I said, we have to, as people, and it's not just Black people, but people. I'm speaking mainly to people of color, because I know white people do this too. But we have to stop normalizing abuse. Stop it. We got to stop normalizing dysfunction and thinking it's cute. It's not cute. Case in point, I love the show Mama's Family. Mama's Family is a great show. It's funny. But if you really dissect the comedy, it's actually quite sad. It's a sad show if you really look at it. Because if you look at the dynamic between Eunice and Mama, for instance, they don't like each other. And that's because they're one and the same. Mama was very unsupportive of her daughter. Eunice, because of that, she took it out on anybody she saw fit to. She settled for less. She never went for what she wanted. She wanted to be an actress. But then if you have a mother who's telling you, well, you don't have talent, you're not going to make it, you're old, you're this, you're that, what are you going to do with that? And I'm using these examples to show people that it's like how art can often imitate life. Look at the Braxtons, case in point. Look at the Braxtons and Tracy. Look at Tracy Braxton. And I've talked about this a little bit in a previous video, but look at Tracy Braxton. I feel bad for her in a sense, because I feel like her family won't admit that they don't like her. You can love somebody and not like them, and I feel like they won't admit, like, we don't like her. We don't see it for her. You know what I mean? She's all right. We see it more so for Tony because Tony's the name. Or we put up with Tamar because Tamar gets attention. Tamar, you know what I mean? Like, they won't say it. And then with Tawanda, I think the reason why Tawanda can be sneaky or whatever is because Tawanda's like, I'm gonna throw my rock and hide my hand. Tawanda's passive aggressive because she knows that's what works. And then with Trina, what does Trina do? Trina goes into drinking. Trina goes into men. You know what I mean? Like, if you really look at their pattern and you see how dependent and how codependent they all are on each other, thanks to their mother. And I'm not a fan. I'm gonna be real with y'all. I'm not a fan of Evelyn Braxton at all, because I can see the dysfunction. Because no matter if it's TD Jakes, no matter if it's Iyanla, like Iyanla said, a couple years ago, they're beyond help. And it's all thanks to the mom, because the mother literally emasculates the daughters. She makes them hate themselves, and she makes them hate the men they're with. Because if you notice, all the women, they all have some marital problem somewhere, except for Tracy. But that's because Tracy, if you really look at it, Tracy's the black sheep, because Tracy would call shit out and be like, no, this doesn't make sense. And Tracy's not afraid to voice her opinion and speak her mind and say, Mom, Dad, I don't agree with that. But it's sad how dysfunction can play out on even on TV. Look at the Kardashians. That's the most dysfunctional family I've ever seen in my life. The mother doesn't care about anything but money. She plays favorites with all her kids. She manipulates them all. That's why Rob has a weight problem. That's why Courtney wants nothing to do with him, because Courtney's like, this is some bullshit. I don't want to do this mess. I just want to I want to run my business, and I want to be a wife and a mom. And let me just say, Courtney, there's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes in life, you have to cut people off to find yourself. Because even with me, I've had to realize that. It doesn't mean you don't love them. It just means I don't like what you bring to the table and how it affects my crops, how it affects the things that I'm planning. So to save my sanity and my self-preservation, I'm going to leave you where you are. And sometimes with family, whether it be of choice or origin, you have to do that. And I'm going to be honest with you. When you realize that a family is dysfunctional, whether it be choice or origin, it can be very jarring, it can be very sobering, and it can be very lonely, because you realize, like, well, damn, not that you're the most functioning person, but I think to realize that, because let's be real, we all have issues, okay? We all have issues, but I think to realize that a family unit, or whom you thought were family, that there's a lot of unhealthy habits or unhealthy issues, it can be very shocking. And it's a lonely road, because then you have to figure out, well, excuse me, do I want to stay in that, or do I want to move on from that? You know what I mean? And you kind of have to figure out a way to deal with it, to where if you do want them around, that it doesn't drain you, emotionally or mentally or spiritually even. Because even with me, like even with my family, I've learned, okay, I have to, it's a dance. I have to be able to be around them in a way that is healthy for me. You know what I mean? And have personal boundaries, and not allow them to get the best of me. Because it's like a meme I saw, where they say, it's like, it's not what people do to you, it's how you respond to it. And that is true. And thankfully for therapy and counseling, yeah, I like to think I've gotten better, because I have my moments too. But I just wanted to come on and discuss this. So I want to ask you, for those of you who are watching, for those of you who are listening, how or when did you know when your family of choice or origin was dysfunctional, and what did you do to heal from it and to deal with it? Did you walk away, or are you still in it? What are you doing to rectify it? What are you doing to take care of yourself? Because right now that we are in isolation, a lot of us are dealing with abusive families, because we have no choice. A lot of us are dealing with abusive parents. A lot of us are dealing with abusive boyfriends and girlfriends, and a lot of children are dealing with abusive, relatives and stuff. So, and a lot of dysfunction. So I want to know, how are you dealing with that? What are you doing to cope? Are you talking to someone? Are you in counseling? Do you have people that you can go to without judgment or without shame? What are you doing to make it so that way it doesn't weigh on your spirit or your mental, your mental ability, your mental health. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say. So leave your comments below. I do read them. I thank you guys so much for watching this, for listening to me. And I hope I made sense in this video. I just really wanted to discuss this because I think it needs to be talked about. And I also think that, you know, the one thing we have to understand is that no matter if we are the Jacksons or, you know, Honey Boo Boo, we all have skeletons in our closet. We all have issues. And the only thing we can do is to deal with it, heal from it, and learn from it. And with that being said, I'm Leo Brown, and this was Let's Talk About It. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.